welcome back to another episode of Now Hear Me Out. And today we have a different type of episode where I'll be joined by my friend Diego Uribe and the rest of his team. I have Carter Dimesa here to my side, John Carraher, I think that's how you say it, and then Eddie Paz. So our school does a mock election with the entire AP government class where both Democratic and Republican candidates run against their opponents and try to seize a victory. My friend Diego has been named the candidate for the Republican Party, so good job, Diego, where he will go against Logan Galimi and Vice President Cami Minor. This election will be held on November 17th, so get out and vote, guys. Today, in this episode, we're going to go over some of Uribe's policies and what separates him from his opponent and what makes him the better candidate, along with me explaining some of my stances on these problems in real life matter. This whole election thing is actually super cool, like how the school puts it on. I'd seen it in my years past, but they have everybody sign up for a job. So there's vice president, or press secretary, financial advisor, and all the above. There's like media. I'm a voter. It's super interesting, and the media writes articles, and there's websites and all that stuff. So shout out to the AP Gov department for doing a great job putting on this mock election. Diego, you want to introduce yourself and say a few things?
Yeah, what's up, guys? So as you know, I'm the Republican candidate, and like John said, like this has been like a fun experience, nothing but fun. Maybe besides like the bad media that have gone in the beginning, but besides that, it's been a great experience, and I'm so glad that I got here this far, and yeah.
Yeah, congrats, man. If you look at the numbers for each candidate with the Democratic side and the Republican side. Democratic, it was pretty common. Like it was pretty close. Like there was on top Logan Galimi, Cami Minor, and then below that Carter Dimesa, I think, who is here today, who is serving as Diego's vice president, which I thought was super interesting because he was actually running as a Democratic candidate, and Diego brought him on as his vice president. So if you want to explain kind of why you did that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like, if you could see Carter's policies, you obviously could see that he knows what he's doing, and he truly wants what's best for America and to unify and try to like lessen the divide that we have in America right now. And you know, some of our policies we disagree on, and I feel like that's normal in a society. Oh, yeah. I think it's good that, you know, the vice president and the president both have different policies, because, you know, you don't want to have a yes man telling saying, yes, sir, these policies are great, blah, 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 blah. Right. You know, it's very good to have Carter here and have like, you know, a different perspective on life. And I think it's very helpful to a society and to a presidency.
Yeah, I totally agree. So on your website, the first thing it says, your slogan, I guess, your motto, it says reject bureaucracy and embrace modernity.
Modernity, yeah.
Okay,
yeah. When we first came up with the slide, we actually spelled modernity wrong. We were like modernity, so we kept on getting it wrong. But basically, what it means is, so reject bureaucracy. Kind of, basically, we don't want to like destroy the whole entire government. That's not what we want. We're not like free market. No, we want basically to kind of take out where the government is not useful and put it to places where, you know, it's needed. You know, there's a lot of places in that the government is funding and being in places that it doesn't need to be. And so that's our goal, to try to take out the unusefulness. And then embrace modernity is basically our slogan, saying that we should embrace modern thinking and embrace the new generation and have good policies that, you know, will benefit the next and the next and the next.
Totally. I love it. Yeah, great slogan there. I saw it and I was like, oh, those are some big words, so it might be a little difficult, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, thanks to this podcast, we could explain it. So.
Yeah, right? Yeah, finally, they can hear what we mean. Okay, so let's start off with healthcare. It's a growing topic, especially in America, with this whole universal healthcare thing. But before we dig into that, your website says you want to replace Obamacare with a healthcare voucher system. And it says, in quote, you want to keep the innovation of privatized healthcare and make it affordable to those who need it. So can you explain, just kind of go into that and explain why it's better than your opponents?
No, I can't explain. I'm just kidding. Of course I can explain here. I think what our policy is something that is actually very beneficial and actually much better than Obamacare. Obamacare basically was put in place to help people who don't have the money to afford healthcare. And the problem with Obamacare is that it's not good treatment. The doctors are paid very little, and you only have a certain amount of treatment you're allowed to give to these patients. The patients who can't afford anything are forced to pay high premiums for bad treatment. And I think it's just very, very not useful at all for the government. And the government right now is spending, trillions of $1 trillion every single year. And I think it's very unuseful and kind of going backwards, not really helping us at all.
Yeah, you said you wanted to reallocate. I think you said you wanted to reallocate the funds for that into your voucher system, which was $700 billion. So Logan Galimi, sorry, Logan, as a lot of people do, believe that healthcare is a fundamental right. And he claims that he supports Medicare for all, and he wants to fund this by increasing taxes on large corporations and a general tax increase. The Logan Galimi campaign also says, in quote, Medicare for all is achievable and overall beneficial. However, it requires large public support, so our campaign is willing to compromise if the public support is just not there yet. Achieving large public support, it's got to be pretty difficult, especially from shifting an entire country or an AP government class to Medicare for all. So what's your stance on universal healthcare, and why do you think that your voucher system would be better than said universal healthcare?
I think, universal healthcare sounds awesome.
It looks awesome. On paper,
yeah, free healthcare. Oh my God, count me in. But unfortunately, it doesn't work. It won't work. We've seen it in multiple countries that just gone to, the
most
gutter.
Countries. I think almost every country, right?
I think you're gonna see lots of countries in the future like just blow out. We've seen it in Sweden, in the 70s when they became a full welfare state. But the reason why I thoroughly don't agree with universal healthcare is for multiple reasons. First reason being that the treatment is not good. No. It's when you force doctors to do something and get paid a certain amount of money, they're not going to want to make new treatment, make better medicine. No incentive. And we see in Canada, London, the long waits we have, the people have to go to the healthcare to get their treatment and to see their doctor. In America, we have I go to the doctor and boom, I'm there, and then I'm out. It's very simple. And with the voucher system is something what we adopted and we looked at the Nordic states. Basically, what it is for people who can't afford it. So kind of going back to Obamacare, again, it's good. We want to help people who can't afford it, but Obamacare is not working. The voucher system is basically using the money that we get from taxes, and instead of spending it on a terrible, terrible system like Obamacare, that money is going to people who have a voucher, and then they go to that voucher and they use the money that was given by the government to give to a privatized healthcare system. Yeah. So we keep the wonderful aspect of privatization, can't even say privatization, but the private sphere of healthcare. Yeah. So we keep on getting better treatment, better doctors, better medicine, but it's cheap for people who can't afford it, and cheap for people who want to get healthcare. Right.
No, cheap is great. And I have a pretty big stance on healthcare for all, only because it's just I think it's just a crappy idea. Because according to The Hill, a Medicare for all system, and this is specifically through Bernie Sanders' plan, and it's similar with Elizabeth Warren, who also had a similar Medicare stance. It said Medicare for all would cost roughly $32 trillion over the next 10 years. I don't even think we're at $32 trillion in debt.
Yeah, no.
We would quadruple it.
Yeah. Our budget right now is $4 trillion, and that's just not going to work.
No. They declare it. The left side tends to declare it a right to have health care, but when you do that, you take away the incentive, like you said. You basically go to the doctor and say, you're going to work, and you're going to like it, and we're going to make you work. And that's why you see, in Canada, like you said, in Canada, Israel, and the United Kingdom, there's so many places that have this black market, this underground black market for healthcare. That's why you see all these people coming to the U.S. to get a surgery and get treatment done. Because if you want surgery there, you got to wait 6 months in line because people don't get incentives to become surgeons. Mm-hmm. When you take away the market, there's just no more incentive. And and countries are importing people from the United States or from other countries, which is a cost on its own. It's crazy how.
Yeah. I definitely agree with you on all those things, and like we definitely see those things because of universal healthcare is found in most countries.
Yeah.
I think what's so great about having a privatized system is we keep the initiative, we keep the innovation of Americans who want to like build better medicine for the people.
Yeah.
And we could see it right now, actually, in news. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but Pfizer,
Pfizer.
They're a privatized healthcare, or like they're innovative because they're making money. They're looking for that profit.
Vaccine,
They made it
90%
effective.
That's
so
great.
that's because of our healthcare system, and it's because it's privatized.
Yeah, and you look at these countries with universal healthcare, and they have extremely high tax. I mean, Logan, the Galimi campaign, said it sounds easy. He just said he wants to raise taxes. I mean, that sounds super easy. Sounds super vague too. All these countries with universal healthcare have a very high tax rate on the middle class, which is sitting at about 60% for people that make about $60,000 a year, which is
totally.
Unbelievably high. I think that's the numbers in Sweden too. But it's tough because all the countries that are doing really well in healthcare, because you say, you look at all these European countries, they're great countries and they have socialized healthcare. Why can't we do that? And it's because before that they were already doing pretty well with healthcare, I think, as are we, and they're trying to make that shift. But the thing is, the U.S. is super unhealthy. We're the number one unhealthy country in the world, number two sitting at Mexico, and it's just you can't be having these 6 months waiting periods and all this stuff for a country that's extremely unhealthy. You look at Japan. Japan is, I think, one of the healthiest countries in the world, and they also walk everywhere and they eat super great, and we're lazy and we eat like crap.
Yeah, we Uber everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
We Uber Eats or Postmates or food.
Right. Okay. So we have big stances on healthcare. Do you want to add anything, Carter?
I'd like to add in a question that maybe some of the voters are thinking while
Totally.
listening to this. So you pitched your voucher healthcare system to me before we started recording this.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like a very interesting idea. But one thing that I think the voters might want to know is, can you, Diego Uribe, confidently say that every single American will be covered by this plan?
No. I think the problem with this is like we just said, universal healthcare. That's basically what it would be if we did that.
Got it.
And the problem is we're going to have to tax the people of America, the corporations, with these crazy amount of taxes that will actually do more damage than actually do anything good for us. And I definitely, what I can say and what I can promise is that people who cannot afford healthcare, who if they get sick and will be bankrupt, that won't happen under this policy. They'll get the treatment that they need with the money that will be given to the government. And our attempt right now is to tackle that first. Then from there on, try to make it definitely our second goal is to make it cheaper for people on the middle class and the upper class. The upper class, they can afford it, They can afford it. They could go to the healthcare system and, here's $50,000 and afford it. But the people who can't, that's what we're going to help.
Right.
Got it.
Okay, so big issue on healthcare there. That's a big topic coming up. Let's talk about Logan's tax policy. Diego, what's yours? What do you think?
I think our tax policy, we didn't put it on our website or anything, but it's to actually lower it and reduce the loopholes. Because right now we have a tax policy in America where there's actually loopholes. So companies like Amazon, Facebook, and Apple are, they're saying we're paying this, but actually they're not. They're not actually. There's like billions of dollars not going to the U.S. government.
Right.
And so I think we lower it, take those loopholes, we're actually going to see more of an increase of money coming in for the U.S. government. And that's my view on it. And I think raising the taxes actually is not very beneficial to a capitalistic society, which we are.
Right.
And our goal is to promote business and innovation. And with taxes, it's going to stop doing that because people are going to not want to pay lots of money and not going to innovate.
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about what happened with Sweden and Venezuela and Mexico.
Yeah, absolutely. What happened with Sweden and Mexico was not Mexico, Venezuela.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Venezuela. No. What happened was they raised the taxes on, for example, Venezuela raised the taxes on oil companies that they were trying to support their social system of healthcare, and then Sweden was trying to do the same thing. They raised the taxes on the wonderful IKEA that we know. I mean, my house is full of IKEA.
Same with me.
Yeah. Like, I love IKEA, you know? And the CEO, we saw a documentary, me and my team were like, the CEO was like, we had to leave Sweden. The taxes were just hurting us. We couldn't innovate. We couldn't grow as a business. Yeah. And you could see multiple companies were like, we can't innovate because we try to make this new idea, or we're trying to take this risk. This risk needs money, but this money is going to taxes instead that are helping fund universal healthcare.
Right.
And so that's why I believe, keep the taxes at a really good
percentage.
Yeah, percentage, and see how the economy will increase or get better.
Come with it. Yeah. No, it's you brought up a point there that I was just going to bring up. Venezuela and Sweden that you just both talked about. Both of these have universal healthcare, which is super interesting to look at. That now that they're relying on, like I wrote here, the Galimi campaign wants to raise the federal corporate tax rate from 21% to 28%, which would add on top of state corporate tax rates, which vary with different states. His plan says he wants to raise income, capital gains, and payroll taxes on those who earn more than $400,000 a year, which sounds exactly like our friend Joe Biden's plan.
Yes, Joe Biden.
But Venezuela is, I looked it up last night, it's like 2 or 3 on the highest corporate tax rates, up there with Brazil, Chad, a few different countries in Africa. And these countries aren't in the best shape. If you look at them, they're third world countries, they're not doing super well. So it's super interesting to see what happens with countries when they rely on a higher corporate tax rate. And it, like you said, with Venezuela, Sweden.
I think also what happens to the companies, and excuse me, my voice is going out, but the companies. So, for example, if we raise the corporate tax on Amazon, Apple, they're going to want to leave. Why are they going to stay in a country where they're having to pay enormous amounts of taxes?
I'd want to leave.
Yeah, you'd want to leave, right? And so the problem with that is there's a lot of jobs that Americans get from Amazon. I have it here about like 800K. Like 800,000 people work under Amazon. If Amazon were to leave to another country,
how many Amazon trucks do you guys see a day?
I mean,
a lot, right?
A lot, very lot.
But a prime example that I think is Detroit. Detroit used to be one of America's most booming cities. It was fantastic. There was plenty of jobs. There was plenty of people, and it was going great. Then it was run by Democratic governors and mayors and such, and the state corporate tax rate went up, and Detroit is the number one crime-filled state in America. It's gone to complete. It's just terrible. And you look at the city, and it's really sad because the people that live there love it there, and they love the heritage and they love everything about it, the culture. But there's so many jobs and so many places that left, and mainly it's called Motor City for a reason. All these car companies, GM, Ford, all those. They're there, and after these high corporate tax rates, they're like, why should I build all my cars here? Why should I do all this here when I can do it
Texas
or Mexico or anywhere else with the lower corporate tax rate and make more money or save money?
Exactly. I mean, that's why you see a lot of the companies that we have here in America go to China for the factories because, taxes, it's cheaper there. That's the problem, I think. Do you have anything to say, Carter?
No, I frankly happen to agree with a lot of what was said.
Yeah, totally.
That's good. You should. No, I'm just kidding.
So let's move on. Let's move on to marijuana here. Another rising topic.
Very big topic.
I'm interested to hear your stance on it. So let's hear it.
So, as I said on my website, I think it should be legalized because. Why do we have alcohol legal, which actually statistically with data shows that it has more deaths and actually is worse than marijuana? And so I think it's caused a lot of crime and incarceration of innocent people, you know. And I think what we should do is legalize it because it actually has more benefits than alcohol. And I think it's just kind of bad that America hasn't yet adapted to the modern thinking of right now.
Totally, yeah. Let's talk about what separates it from alcohol. You have a few things written down here.
Yeah, if you don't mind, let me reading it because it's a lot of data. There are 0 deaths from marijuana. I couldn't even find a number of marijuana-related deaths, while alcohol per year is just below 100,000 in the U.S. alone.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Absolutely, it's crazy, and you know, I think it's a thing we have to take in consideration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, for sure. I was looking at some history here, so let's talk about it. In 1970, the Controlled Substance Act was put into place, which classified weed as a Schedule I drug, saying it has a high potential for abuse, and no medical use was accepted. So therefore, it was banned in the United States. Not until 44 years later, the government said, okay, the federal government can no longer interfere with the implementation of state medical laws with the, excuse me if I get this wrong, Rebecca-Farr Amendment, which basically just, said that the federal government has no say in it. And then decriminalization started coming up in 1973. Texas declared, I think it said it was 4 ounces was a misdemeanor. So that was kind of big. It was the first state to do that. And then you look in Oregon. Oregon was the first state to said drastically decriminalize cannabis in 1973, later that year. And they reduced the penalty to $100. And when I saw that, I was like, there's no way, because you guys might know it's kind of trending right now too. Measure 110 in Oregon declares methamphetamine, cocaine, and heroin it's not legal, but it's not a criminal act. So you can have it on your record, or you can pay $100 and you go to like a rehabilitation center. And it's just so interesting to see, because marijuana 50 years ago, it was looked as this terrible thing. Yeah. 50 years later, now California, Arizona now. Arizona, that's big. Typically a red state. So it's interesting to see. I don't think we were kind of joking about this before. 50 years from now, it'd be kind of interesting to see who decriminalizes cocaine, heroin, and meth. Obviously, meth and weed are a very different drug.
Totally different drugs.
Right? Yeah.
I think what we're going to see in 50 years from now is, you know, lots of different things. I think our approach we need to take in America is that, you know, we got to look at how we can make it better for, you know, the opium crisis. Because as we know, there's a lot of people who are addicted to these drugs, and it hasn't been working. We've had this kind of way of thinking and reacting with this stuff, and it really hasn't. And so I feel like in 50 years from now on, we'll have kind of the things that a lot of, you know, us young kids or young thinkers, such as like, you know, the decriminalization of, you know, these weeds, and actually trying to like have rehabilitation centers to help these guys who are addicted to it. And I feel like we'll see a lot of great things.
Yeah, no, totally. Arizona just passed, I think it was measure 207 or 208, which just legalized weed in the state. And some people were against this, and I was like, that's got to be the stupidest thing. You tax weed, you put a tax on weed, the amount of money, the amount of businesses,
jobs.
Holy crap. People are talking about taking money from our pockets to put towards healthcare, to put towards funding education, which we'll get into later. Why not make weed legal, tax the hell out of it, and there you go. That's millions of dollars you can put in. So let's get into the crime rate. If you're listening, you might have heard it's really funny to look at the statistics on my podcast. I can see all the listeners and all the downloads for all my podcasts, and they're all about the same steady rate. And my podcast titled BLM, where I talked about Black Lives Matter, this huge higher number that's more listened to than any other one. But I talk about the crime rate in that. And besides what people think, the United States, and Bernie Sanders actually just posted a thing about it, which made me very upset. And he said all the things that United States was number one in. And he said we were number one in, basically said we were number one in the crime rate. And I looked it up, and we're number 50. And it's obviously different with other countries. You can't really rank them the same because crime here is going to have a different definition than crime in, say, Somalia or East Africa, so Ethiopia. So it's interesting to see what we do with the crime rate here. But you had a few things on it. You said once, and I found this super interesting. You said once crime is reduced, investors are likely to create businesses in these areas, thus providing jobs for people living here. So you want to go into that a little bit?
Yeah, and so I think the problem right now in the U.S. is that crime is we have lots of crime, and it doesn't matter what other countries have or how much crime they have. It's very important, and we need to figure out how we can solve it.
Totally.
And so, yes, this idea or this policy that me and my team made, it's kind of controversial with the things that have happened, with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. But I think, and according to actually Vox, which is a very left-leaning,
very left side,
very left-leaning media program, actually wrote in kind of article writing about that adding more police and using more police force actually reduces crime.
Wow, a left-leaning media said more police.
Yeah, and if you want
I don't believe it.
Yeah, if you want to see the facts, we actually have the link, and it's actually a research paper written in 2005.
No, it's real. Yeah.
Yeah. It's saying that actually more police force reduces crime. And the reason why I said kind of a domino effect when I was interviewed by Hadley Short was that, I think what causes this problem is poverty, lack of education, and then with lack of education and in poverty, you go to crime.
Right.
But the thing is, we can't tackle poverty first. We have to tackle crime.
Yeah.
And then when crime is reduced, investors are going to come in. They're going to look at this community that was once filled with lots of crime. They're going to want to invest, and they're going to want to put money in and give jobs to the people in the community. From there on, the people in the community are going to have, more money, going to be less in poverty, and actually it's going to go to the education system through property tax, income tax, and actually benefit the community.
Totally.
So the problem, what we see right now is we're giving money directly to the people to try to make them, more wealthier, but that doesn't work. It hasn't been working.
So in the Vox article you were saying, it says, quote, solid data suggests that even if you take a realistic view of the police spending money to hire more police officers, an idea supported by both Bill Clinton and Barack Obama, both Democratic candidates, is a sound approach to the multi-phased problem of criminal justice. There was a research paper in 2005 where two college students both came to this conclusion as well, and this was in 2005. So it's super interesting to see with the crime rate and how people, huge thing, defund the police. It's a huge thing going on right now, and I think it's super silly. If you want to get something better, you have to put more money into it. And I thought it was very funny. I was looking at Logan Galimi's website. He says he wants to shift funding from police to social and community services. Literally half a centimeter above it, the same line, it says he wants to increase the amount of police training. So how I don't understand how he expects to increase police training while reallocating funds from the police to, say, a guidance counselor that comes out and talks to a man beating his wife or something. I don't know how that would work, but what's your stance on that?
I think, kind of going on to the topic of universal health care, it sounds good,
Sounds good.
It wouldn't make sense to defund the police because they're doing atrocities to, very innocent people. It doesn't work like that. The problem is not actually running away from it. It's actually, looking at it and saying, okay, we actually have data research saying that, more police actually does it good. And these guys are truly good people. And I know lots of people who are in the police force who truly only want what's best for the people and the civilians.
Yeah. And we appreciate them. It was Veterans Day yesterday. So we appreciate all the people that serve for our country. My dad was in the military and he was a police officer. So I look up to him and I salute him for putting his life on the line for Americans on the daily. We'll now go into... Yeah. So here's Carter.
So I have a question for you, Diego, about just the police in general. So I'm going to come out and say that I personally do support the Black Lives Matter movement.
I do too.
And as someone that supports the Black Lives Matter movement, I do see that racism and racial discrimination within the police department is an issue.
Totally.
I don't personally on paper find a problem with you increasing the police force especially in high crime areas. But what I do want to know is, will you make any reform to the police system and the police department to prevent racial incidents in the future and like racially charged murders of innocent people that the police find?
This is why it's beautiful to have you on here, man. You know, totally. I mean, that's the point. What I mean by increasing the police force, I mean funding in general. You know, not defunding it. We're gonna fund it. We're gonna have better training on racial issues, better
History
training
classes,
on
maybe.
issues on interference when you're going to like altercation. I didn't mean just funding. We're gonna put more police people and put more bad people. No, that was increase the funding and better it. And I think that's a very important thing, and I definitely want to tackle that because I don't want to put something that will do more harm. I want it to actually do something and something great.
And we can talk about the 1994 crime bill implemented by Joseph Biden, or we could go into global warming. So that's what we're going to do. Perhaps one of the biggest controversial topics for some reason in the modern era. A huge stigma around it is that all Republicans believe that it is not real. Can we get a vote?
I totally believe in it, and if you don't, I don't know. I don't know what's wrong.
Global warming is in fact real.
Yeah, no, it's real. So your stance on it is that you do believe in it.
Absolutely.
So you want to talk about that some more?
Totally. I think this is something very important to us, especially because we're the young generation. All of us are about to, embark on our lives, and we don't want it to be destroyed by, terrible air and terrible, weather and just everything bad. So, I came up with this idea with my team is a reasonable and realistic idea. Obviously, I would love to use solar power energy and wind energy. But right now it's not good enough. And so we came up with a plan with a 50 to 100 year plan using nuclear energy. With this, we're going to use this. We're going to reduce carbon emissions. It's safer than coal. It's safer than oil. And yes, it's going to produce some waste in some areas, but we're going to wait 50 years. So we're going to have some waste, but when 50 years hit, we're going to have solar energy innovated. We're going to have wind energy innovated, and it's going to be better, and it's going to fuel our future generation. And I think that's what's the plan we should take. Not go to solar energy and say blah 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 blah. It's not going to do enough. It's not going to do enough for us. It's not going to give us enough.
Yeah, making a huge shift directly from carbon fuel to solar would just it'd be crazy. You have to do it gradually, like you said, from 5 to 100 years or 50 to 100 years. Sorry. And like I said, I do believe in global warming. It's just the solution is so difficult. It seems like everybody, the most majority of people believe in it, but to stop it, nobody really has a solid plan. And you would have to cut all carbon emissions, which is what is said to be the number one. It's methane, but what is said to be the number one producer of our dirty air is carbon emissions. So you'd have to get everyone to stop driving cars. Everyone would have to go electric. And you'd have to stop having coal emissions that power different countries. I looked it up. Solar power provides only 2% of the United States power and energy. And we've invested, I don't know the exact amount, but billions of dollars into solar energy. So the fact that we only have 2%, it's only powering 2% of our country is pretty wild. One of my most listened to guys, Ben Shapiro, most people know who that is, has said, environmentalism is a luxury of the rich, which I think was a super interesting quote to think about. So you look at China, a bunch of different third world countries, they don't care. If the United States were to fully go green, or to fully go solar power, all that, how are you going to get all these other countries to do it? Because we as one country in the world and the whole entire planet aren't going to put a full stop. And Bill Gates, who is a businessman, and everybody listens to him apparently. He's a businessman and people listen to him about pandemics and climate change. I don't know how that works. I'm not going to go tell someone how to build a helicopter, but whatever. He said there's no fortune to be made in green energy, and even if you have a new energy source that costs the same as today's and emits no carbon dioxide, it will be uncertain compared with what's tried and true and already operating at an unbelievable scale. So it's a very hard. It's not that it's a really controversial topic. It's just it's hard to deal with. Your opponent Logan Galimi has said he wants to join back into the Paris Climate Agreement. Let's hear your stance on that.
Yeah. So the Paris Climate Agreement, the problem with it is that
There's a lot of problems with it.
yeah, no. So in theory, it was a great idea because obviously we're a world, and all of us are being affected. We're all going to be affected by this, but U.S. can't be the only country leading it. Like obviously we have the big countries, France and stuff, but the ones that are leading the carbon emissions is China, Russia, India, Iran,
Right.
and they weren't going to do anything. They were like, oh, I'm going to come in 2030, so like 10 years. We don't have 10 years, This is a very big problem that we have to tackle now. We can't run away from it. We can't avoid it. We can't do anything about it. Yes, you made good points. It's a very difficult problem to tackle. But if we as a country unify and act on it as quickly as possible with the right way that will help that won't destroy the economy, that won't hurt other people's lives, I think it's something very doable, and together we can do it. But joining the Paris Climate Agreement won't help us at all because we're not holding China, Russia, India accountable.
Right. So as the Uribe campaign, what do you guys want to do about that? Do you want to join in? Do you want to rewrite it? Do you want
rewrite it? Rebroker it.
Okay.
Something different. And I think Carter had something to say. Did you?
You kind of just answered it, but I'll continue. So the reason why the Paris Climate Agreement is looked at positively is, as of right now, that's pretty much all we've got to for multiple countries to get together and fight climate change, because this is a global issue. This doesn't just affect us. Yep. And I see your criticism that we can't hold Russia, China, and India accountable, even though they are big contributors to climate, global warming, and all that. Mm-hmm. What will you do to hold them accountable, to get them to reduce their carbon emissions?
Me and my campaign team were thinking of tariffs because we don't want to get it violent. We don't want to use nuclear weapons because we know they have, and we have lots of, national defense spending, which we don't want to waste and go into wars. So tariffs is the best way, So if everybody's held accountable, where are the markets going to go if we close the markets off from India, China, and Russia, and so then they'll be like, okay, we have to change, we're losing money. We're going to go into this collapse. So they're going to start changing their ways. And I think that's the best way we could tackle it.
Right.
Yeah, totally. It's tough.
It's very difficult. I mean, totally,
I'm really interested to see how the country.
I think we could definitely do it, though. I definitely think so.
Yeah, totally. Let's get into marriage. Marriage/homosexuality, a very popular topic. What do you have to say?
I mean, don't even get started. It's something you should be with whoever you want to be. You should be whoever you want to be. I'm not sure if I said that correctly. Maybe I messed up. But, as long as it doesn't infringe on other people's rights, I think, like I said, you should be whoever you want to be or who you want to be. I'm
the same way. I mean, if you're happy, you're happy, right? Why does it have to be such a big deal? But what I have a question is why the hell is government in it? What's up with government being a part of marriage? Why do they
tax benefits? I think,
right? Yeah, probably they get more money. But come on now, why do we have to fight? Why does California have to fight in 2016 or whatever year? Why do they have to fight for legalization of gay marriage? That just sounds stupid.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
it sounds like a damn fantasy. I think it should be legal in all 50 states, gay marriage. And totally. What do you think?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, you can't do this. You can't do that. That's just against these guys, the human rights. I should have the right to be whoever I want, and no government, no one could tell me not to.
And we have a lot of rights here. I mean, you're telling me I can own a firearm, I can say whatever I want, and I can own my own media coverage and post whatever I want about it, but I can't get married to the same sex. I think that's goofy, and that needs to be fixed. So I'm with you. Let's fix it. Let's talk about education, though. Both you and your opponent Logan Galimi have both made it clear that it's sort of a big deal. So what do you think?
I think are we talking about education, correct?
Education.
Okay, good. I thought we were on the Second Amendment.
No,
education is, I mean, one of the biggest things of how a society or
our future,
our country. If we don't have an educated generation, then how are we going to be successful in the upcoming battles between evil. I mean, maybe that's a little too far fetched, but I think it's beneficial for an economy to succeed. I think it's beneficial for a country to succeed with educated people. And so right now our system is quite, how should I say, medieval. It's very old. It hasn't been changed since the industrial age or 1920s. And we think, the way we can better it and, make the education system actually competitive against all, other countries, because right now we're like in 20th or like 30th place with like our education system.
We're not even in the top 20.
Yeah, we're not even in the top 20.
America.
And we're the best. We're like one of the biggest countries. We have the biggest economy, so it doesn't make sense. And so one of our things is it has to do with the voucher system of the healthcare system, which we also kind of adapted from Nordic countries. Mm-hmm. But give vouchers to kids who want to go to a private school or to a public school. Keep public schools free. But make private schools affordable for all by giving families a yearly voucher to use for the school of their choice. Okay. If you want to go to a school for like RUHS, you still can. But if you're a low income family from Compton and you want to go to a better school and get better education because that's what you deserve, you can with a voucher.
Right. Your opponent, Logan Galimi, says he wants to encourage. He didn't write a whole lot, but he said he wants to encourage education on safe sex and climate change. Your thoughts on that?
I think that's good. I think safe sex is important, and I also think climate change is very important because I remember I was in chemistry like 2 years ago, and some person came in and explained to me about like what being vegan like helps the environment, and then I stopped drinking dairy from that day on, and so like I think it's very beneficial. So I think it definitely helps. It's educating the people. It's like if you eat less meat, you'll help the environment, or don't drink dairy, that actually helps. And so I think we educate them in the right way, as long as it doesn't get into the wrong hands of like, it becoming like a totalitarian, dictatorship or anything like that. But yes.
So your opponent wants free university education. He wants free 4-year college.
How are we going to pay for that?
You tell me.
Like I said, it sounds really good.
It's funny how everything sounds good on paper and it all ends up crappy.
I wish
communism.
Yeah.
Pretty much socialism, universal healthcare.
Yeah, totally. I mean,
if it looks too good to be, or what's the saying? If it's too good to be true, it probably is.
Yeah. I definitely think the same thing. Like again, too good to be true. This unfortunately we can't ever get to a utopia. That's my view. I'm an optimist, but I'm also a realistic person, and I feel like free university education is just not going to work because the taxes we're going to have to put onto other people. God.
So you're telling me all of a sudden we want universal healthcare and free college at the same time. That would be tax increases like we have never, ever seen before.
Unfortunately, I would have to leave.
Insane. I would too. Let's go somewhere else. It says, I wrote down, many people running for president in the U.S. have said that if elected, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, they said that if elected, free tuition and fees would be implemented along with wiping the U.S. student debt total, which we'll get to in a second. But if you make the 4-year college free, then everybody and their dog is going to get a bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
That means bachelor degrees are worthless. Have you noticed you can't go and get a job at Northrop Grumman with your high school diploma because everybody can get a high school diploma pretty much if you try and show up and breathe. If everybody can do that with a bachelor's degree, it will become pretty much just nothing, and you'd have to end up getting a master's, or you'd have to major in something else just to get the job that you want.
It sounds a little weird. Totally. I do want to clarify. I do believe there should be an attempt to try to make it cheaper because right now,
it's crazy.
It's crazy expensive.
I made a podcast about that. College is expensive. It's damn expensive.
I'm going to Elko for 2 years because I'm not paying $50,000 to go to UC. I definitely don't agree with that. But we also have like a topic on what was it? A topic on how we could reduce student debt, but student loans. Yeah. And the problem with that right now is the government forces banks to give student loans to kids who need it. And the problem when you force it force banks to give student loans, that means that interest rates on those loans increase. And that's why we see so many students with crippling debt, because you're telling, oh, okay, so everybody, the bank has to give loans to everybody. That means they have to make money, because sometimes the kids aren't going to able. Oh, I'm going a little too fast. I'm sorry. But it's more like, how should I say? Let me read this. I'm going a little off track, and I want to stay on track. Interest rates are high because banks are forced to provide student loans by the government, even though they might be high risk or unaffordable. Get the government out of the way to lower interest rates for student loans. Basically what I meant to say, but I messed up. Do you have anything to say, Carter?
Yeah, I have something to add.
Totally.
So, throughout this whole podcast, there's been quite a few things that I both disagreed and agreed with that were said. One thing that I do agree with both of you on, though, is that I don't see free college at a university as being a realistic thing. And then you were talking about reducing interest rates on student loans, right? Is there anything that you have in mind that will maybe even get rid of the need for some people who can't afford college to take student loans? Will you do anything to make college as a whole more affordable, like without the student loans?
I think one of the things we can do is make it, how should I say? I think, like we said, stop getting the government out of the way, so we reduce the interest rates. And so that means, you're still going to have to pay a lot of money to go to college. At the same time, the interest rates won't be as high, so you won't be as high crippling debt. As the issue of why is why you have to pay so much money to get into college, that is something we haven't looked into. But if you have anything to say, please let me know, Carter, because that's why we have you here. And that's why we're here. We're having a discussion. Definitely something huge we need to talk about. And do you have anything to say on that? On like how we can battle the why is USC forcing us to pay $80,000 a year?
Right, that's ridiculous.
So do you have any idea how we can reduce that number?
So I know that there are some government aid programs that the government can provide that'll reduce the price of college for certain students that are below a certain income level.
FAFSA, right?
But the thing is, I don't think these are that effective, because there are still a lot of kids who still can't afford to go to college because their parents, just don't make it's not that they don't make a lot, it's just that they don't make the insane amount to go to a public or private university. So I think there does just need to be improvements in government aid programs like FAFSA in order to allow students to go to college.
Reject bureaucracy. Remember, the government, that's where it's doing its wrong,
Yeah, exactly. Alrighty, so now we're going to go into the Second Amendment. For those who don't know, the Second Amendment is the right to bear arms. In simple terms, you're allowed to own a gun. Some people want to take it away. Some people want to edit it. Some people are fine. Some people want to keep it, make it harder to get a gun, whatever. The stats say that guns save more lives than they take, saying around 400,000 life-threatening crimes are prevented using firearms, while about 250,000 die by firearm a year worldwide. What do you want to see be done about this topic, and why is it better than Logan's?
I think, I believe thoroughly in the Second Amendment and the right to bear arms, because, in a situation where you have to defend yourself, or in a situation where you have to defend yourself from a tyrannical government, I definitely think you need a gun.
And that's why the Second Amendment was created. People think it was to protect yourself. Well, it is, but
Absolutely.
People think it was for hunting or just because they want to own it. The founding fathers put the Second Amendment in so that they could, if a government becomes too tyrannical, it becomes too much like what Great Britain was, you could rise against it, and that was your right. So that's why it was created, and people want to take that away. Because I think it's not impossible for a government to become tyrannical or to become too extreme
we've
one
seen
way.
In histories multiple times,
And it's going to happen again. So
I mean, not with us. We're changed history,
Right.
We're the best. But basically, my views in the Second Amendment or the gun issue is the problem is each state has their own kind of way of addressing, background checks, or you have to take a year, or it has to be a year for for you to get a gun, or in, let's say, Colorado, it takes you 10 days to get a gun. And so I think what we have to do is kind of something like Ronald Reagan, where in the 80s he got all the 50 states together to unify the drinking age to 21. And so I think the same thing has to come here. We also have to be on the same page as a country, because then we'll have a better way of approaching this. And I think more thorough background checks, make sure these people aren't mentally ill, or
is a huge
or don't have any aren't convicted of any crimes, like
clean records.
Yeah. I mean, like, let's say you were like convicted of marijuana, like you were able to get a gun, but if you were convicted of assault, I mean, I wouldn't trust you with a gun. So we would have to do thorough background checks on that. And so I think that's how we should approach the future.
Yeah, totally. We're almost running out of time here. We're about the 50-minute mark.
Time goes by fast.
Flies,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Let's talk about illegal immigration and diversity. Logan hasn't released any statement based off of this, so it's hard to judge off that. But what are your full thoughts on illegal immigration and diversity?
So I made an Instagram post about this, but both my parents are immigrants from Spain, and this one hits really close to home, because it wasn't as difficult as right now, because it was like 20 years ago, but they became citizens. I mean, they wanted to come to America to get the American dream, and I think they've achieved that. And what we want here at Uribe 2020 is to do that for multiple people who aren't able to do that right now. We have lots of people who from Mexico, from all over the place, that want to come to America and become citizens to get that American dream. And I feel like right now, in the systems that we have, it's not doing that. It's not allowing people to get their visas easily. It's not allowing them to get their green cards easily. And so me and my team, we've come up with some ideas on give all legal immigrants the path to citizenship, allow immigration with no limits unless the government has good reason to do so, such as, someone who is like infringing on the rights of other people, or, the global pandemic.
Right, that's a big one.
And then there's the second thing. Right now, America, we aren't letting 58,000 immigrants who have like extraordinary abilities, which basically means they're like either athletes or they're very intelligent, which would benefit America's society to to diversify and to make it more intelligent. And so I think, why are we even doing that? Why aren't we letting them in? Because our system sucks and we need to do something better about it. And I think this is a great step towards that. And I think it's good that we diversify our country. I wouldn't be here today.
Right? Yeah, totally. You said you want to deport non-citizens who are a threat to life / property, or those who cannot support themselves without substantial government assistance. I 120% agree with that statement. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. I definitely think that as well, because, I don't want people coming here, to take advantage of, what we have, our systems, our or anything like that. And they're not pay taxes, because, my parents are taxpayers. I mean, all of us, we're going to eventually pay taxes, and I don't want people taking advantage of that. And so, I think definitely keeping borders secure. I just don't think we should leave all the borders open. Anybody could come in. I feel like we should at least have, some sort of border security, whether, it's a wall like Trump, or it's just actually just
so
border security.
You do support the wall then?
Not necessarily. I think I support border security. Extra border security.
So yeah, I agree with that. I think we have people have used this reference a lot. We have locks on our doors for a reason. It's not a solid concrete wall because we want to let people in. People can come in. If they're great, we let them into our homes. If they're not, then we don't. That's why we have a lock on our doors. So I think border security is super, super huge, because you look at the rates of crime, drugs, all that compared from the southern border compared to the northern border, sharing with Canada. And it's insane, the amount of drugs, crime, and all of the negative things that come in from the southern border. So I think cracking down on that would be pretty great and would help a lot. But then again, not fully. We're not building a solid concrete wall. We have to let these people who are deemed extraordinary, who have extraordinary abilities, and these people who will benefit American society and will make us more diverse and complete as a country. So I totally agree with you on that. Like I said, Logan didn't really say anything about immigration.
He didn't.
But you didn't say anything about COVID-19, which is
huge.
which is huge. He said he wants to. He has three things he wants to do. He wants to increase center for. He wants to increase CDC funding. Basically, he wants to have a federal mandate that states have to submit their COVID-19 data to the CDC. And he wants to have federally mandated masks in public spaces when socially distancing is not possible, like Redondo Beach already does. What do you think about it? What do you think about
Okay,
COVID-19?
so COVID-19 is something that has impacted all of us in very serious ways, and
So
I think
fastly too.
yeah, so fastly, and
it's November.
yeah,
How
Yeah,
did that work?
Yeah,
It was
exactly.
just.
It was like
was-
yesterday,
yeah,
like March 13th. I remember
13th,
exactly the day.
the day.
I was taking the SAT the next day. I was like,
yeah.
yes, and then I'm like, I had no idea what was about to come. You
Or
know,
we're all speculating about maybe a longer weekend. We hear from our teachers. We all get the call saying no school for I think it was 2 weeks. We were all hyped. Little did we know.
didn't wear any masks, and then
We're a quarter way through our senior year and still seems no progress. So, what do you think about his points about increasing funding to CDC? Many people don't trust the CDC. I don't really have a bias on that. I don't really trust anybody. But what do you think about the face mask that he wants and just COVID-19 in general?
I think, again, in theory, it sounds good, but a lot of people care about their rights and don't like being told what to do. And so we see that a lot, those guys who go in Target and we're like, we don't want to wear a mask. And they just start singing chants and stuff like that. Yeah. You definitely see that. And I don't think federally mandating it is going to do anything because like the police or anybody can't, see what truly goes on. I think what we need to do is just first try to kind of show that wearing masks is actually useful and the government isn't this isn't a hoax, it's
right.
actually something true. Because I've been at work and I told a guy to wear a mask and he's like, are you drinking the Democratic Kool-Aid? I'm like, wear a mask.
I have the same thing. It's tough though because Logan wants to federally mandate it, and most of it is left up to the states.
Yeah.
Locally, my mom lives in Arizona, and I've traveled a few times. I think 3 now during the whole quarantine, and the difference between lockdowns in Redondo Beach, California, and Arizona are insanely different. I mean, things are open. You can go inside, and here it seems it's gotten better, but it's very locked down.
I think it's all about the Goldilocks.
Right.
How is it, how perfect can it be? It can't be, you can't lock down the whole entire country. That's not going to work. You can't just be open because, the COVID-19 is just going to spread like a wildfire. So I think, what we've seen, a lot of, governments try to do is try to get the right perfect, how can we, stay safe at the same time,
right.
Also, get out and, work and keep the economy flowing. So I think you have to find the, just the Goldilocks.
Right.
And
totally.
I agree with, increase for center, for the CDC funding. I think, their ultimate goal is to do good. I definitely think, the states should give COVID-19 data to the CDC. That'd be stupid. I don't know why any state wouldn't want to do that. And then federally mandating masks, I'd say no. I would try
hard to do.
Very hard to do, and people would protest. I think what we should do is kind of make the government look better because a lot of people don't trust the government, and I think that's the first step.
Alrighty, so we have a few minutes left here. I just wanted to ask, we live in a very dominantly left-leaning area. Do you have any concerns with people not paying attention to this AP government media, this podcast, people that have made it this far? Thank you. We appreciate it. But are you worried about the people that are just voting based off of their political belief and reality? Is that a concern for you? I
mean, absolutely. I made an Instagram post about it just 2 days ago, and I think it's so important because I don't think, as for me, I don't try to think as, party. I try to think as who's going to make the best, who's going to make the best policies that will benefit me and my fellow American citizens. And so that's what I try to do in my posts and try to, give light to that because I think, we shouldn't vote for just because, that's the Democrat Party, I'm going to vote for the Democratic Party or that's the Republican Party. I'm going to vote for that. I think we should just look at their policies and see if they have a good story and good outcome.
Totally. Alrighty. Well, myself and many others will be looking forward to Tuesday's outcome of the election. I think it'll be super interesting. I think this podcast could help us out. Thank you, Diego. One last thing. If you could tell everybody listening in AP government right now, what would you tell them?
You're awesome, and thank you for listening to this podcast. And just want to say, Logan Galimi is a good guy.
He's a great guy.
He's a great guy. I've known him since elementary, but his policies are not good enough, and they aren't going to do what's good for America. And, he hasn't put this much work in. My whole entire campaign team has been, not sleeping. They've been getting stuff done.
You came to me 2 days ago asking to do a podcast.
Yeah, we got this done. I feel like, we were the first ones to make the website, and I don't want to sit here and toot my own horn or toot my own team's horn, but, we've worked very hard, and I feel like, we truly want what's best for America and AP Gov students.
Well, Mr. Uribe, we can totally see that you're putting in the work, and we appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been a blast. Thank you for having us. Thank you, Carter. Thank you, everybody that's listened this far. And go out and vote. Thank you. This is the Season 2 opener of Now Hear Me Out.